Good morning, everyone. Here. My name is Teresa Crisanti, and I'm with the Illinois Restaurant Association. I'd like to thank you for joining today's webinar on introducing your business into the airport marketplace. Today's webinar is being broadcast in English, Spanish, and Chinese. To listen in Spanish or Chinese, you can use the interpretation button down in the toolbar. This webinar is being presented by the Illinois Restaurant Association in partnership with the Cook County Small Business Source. The Small Business Source connects small business owners with expert guidance and support. Services include no-cost business advising, resources, and events that connect small business owners with a community of advisors. If you'd like to sign up for business advising, you can visit cookcountysmallbiz.org. In addition, the Illinois Restaurant Association remains a resource to you. We send regular email updates with what you need to know, and you can sign up for those on our website. For today's webinar, please use the Q&A button to post your questions at any time during the presentation, and we'll do a Q&A session at the end to get all of your questions answered. At this time, I'd like to introduce our panelists. We have John Wober, Vice President, Chicago Hospitality Partners, Donna Beasley, Illinois Apex Accelerator Director and Director of Government Contracting Services at the Women's Business Development Center. And we have Christine D'Souza, Director of Sales and Marketing at the Illinois Restaurant Association. John, if you'd like to take it away, please do.
Thank you, Teresa. Good morning, everybody. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about introducing your brand to the airport. Your brand could be a food and beverage brand, a retail brand, or perhaps even a vendor, product, grocery item, or if you provide a service, or whether you're a consultant or a food and beverage supplier, or even a driver, limousine service. All of those possibilities are available. Although we're going to focus more on the food and beverage side, there's a lot of opportunity. Quickly to talk about the concession snapshot between terminals 1 and 3 and currently 2, there is over $350 million in annual food and beverage sales. Over 140 plus locations. On average, those locations are around 950 square feet with annual sales around $2.4 million. And those are based on 2022 numbers. We believe 2023 has seen an increase, so you could see even more sales, increased sales as a result of the post-COVID increase in traffic. Next slide, please. This is a quick overview of some of the slides. We're going to cover a little bit about our company, myself, specifics about the airport, some of the benefits of expanding into the airport. Our company, Chicago Hospitality Partners, Phase 1, we're going to touch on a few restaurant openings. Some slides that the Chicago Department of Aviation hosted a webinar entitled Concessions 101, and we'll go over a couple of slides from their presentation. We will touch on operating agreements and different methods of operating in an airport, as well as a wrap-up and Q&A later in the session. Next slide. A little bit about myself. I've got a background in collaborating with consumer brands, retail brands, and QSR restaurants, primarily in Chicago, but I've done work across the U.S. I'm here, again, is based in Chicago, and I typically develop local partnerships with brands, concepts, chefs, many of the construction companies, and some of the public affairs. I also handle many of the mentor-protege relationships with some of the new brands that we're onboarding, help them get comfortable with the airport and understand how they might work and thrive within an airport environment. My group Air Brands brought the first of the, along with Chicago Hospitality, brought the first of the newest Chicago-based restaurants to Terminal 5 in the new expansion, which was a large infrastructure project. I was named recently a DEI notable, so our company is very focused on the equity opportunities throughout the city. as a first generation, I'm very focused on those as well. Tasked with overall project management at O'Hare for Chicago Hospitality Partners. So I wear many hats, from having a general position within the construction to the operations, and a member of the Illinois Restaurant Association Advisory Board. Next slide, please. So Chicago Hospitality Partners is a prime airport food and beverage operator developer at O'Hare. It's a joint venture between one of the largest US-based food and beverage developers, Master Concessionaire, they also go by MCA, and Air Brands, which is a Chicago-based hospitality concessions firm. The team has developed over 300 chef-driven and food-focused concepts across 24 airports across the US. It is the largest 100% US-based, Chicago-based, minority-owned concession operator currently at O'Hare Airport. So it's grown to a sizable position. And again, what makes it unique is it's US-based and minority-owned. With millions invested in hundreds of jobs at the airport created in phase 1 and phase 2, it's moving in the right direction. Coming off of 2022's largest food and beverage concessions development award, we're introducing a number of concepts at the airport and have learning quite a bit about how to do it today, which there's been a lot of changes over the last 20 and 30 years. So there's increases in cost and difference in customer appetites and really in the customer. So we have some updates on that. And we're focused on creating unique partnerships across the entire city, from downtown to the south side, north side, northwest side. So next slide. Some interesting facts about O'Hare Airport. Nearly 74 million passengers traveled through O'Hare last year. It's still one of the world's busiest airports. Tremendous amount of cargo traveling through O'Hare as a Midwest hub. And the traffic in O'Hare has recovered to more than nearly 90% of pre-pandemic levels, with monthly increases happening month over month. So that's great momentum. O'Hare 21 project momentum. O'Hare 21 is the overall overarching name for all of the enhancements coming to the airport, including the Terminal 5 expansion that I mentioned earlier, which added 10 new gates and 350,000 additional square feet of terminal space, which now operate in partnership with Delta, Southwest, JetBlue, and Frontier. So the Terminal 5, which was historically international, is now a blend of domestic and international travel. So a lot of action in Terminal 5. There's a new parking garage underway, which will accommodate, all those travelers. A little bit about an update with Terminals 1, 2, and 3. The O'Hare 21 program and other multi-billion-dollar projects include the construction of all new satellite concourses to Terminals 1 and 3, the planned demolition of Terminal 2 to make way for the new Global Terminal, which is the large, modern, iconic design by Jeannie Gang, Studio Gang Architects, which evokes, the world-class standing of Chicago, to make it conducive to international and domestic travel for decades to come. Modernization of the existing legacy concessions in Terminals 1 and 3, the addition of new concession spaces that include new square footage that wasn't there before, a facelift of the existing T3 concourse, ADA bathroom upgrades and baggage claim that's happening. That's greenlit. They had a press release about that yesterday. So there's momentum. There's a lot of excitement around the airport and opportunity. Next slide, please. Some of the benefits to consider as a food and beverage operator and really just a general business seeking to do business in the airport. Obviously, with COVID traffic impacting, supplier costs, the slowdown in a lot of the lunch crowd, increasing labor, people working from home, the airport can offer a new and captive audience for businesses seeking to grow. whether you're a construction firm, again, food and beverage supplier, it's a bit of a bright spot in the landscape. So encourage everybody to consider that as an option. So obtaining the location, service contract, or vendor relationship at O'Hare can help you grow beyond O'Hare, beyond Chicago, to perhaps new airports or new markets, right? So there's a way that can elevate your standing and can create opportunities outside the market. Oftentimes you could be offered a position or offered a contract, and if that from a prime vendor as a subcontractor, and if that prime moves to another market, they can bring you along with them if they like the service or product you provide. Encourage everybody to get the ACDBE certification, which we'll touch on a bit later, which will allow you to enter those markets more easily. And airports across the country, really, and especially O'Hare, have embraced the city's diversity with ambitious goals of expanding opportunities to its local businesses, operators, minority-owned firms, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to get your brand into the airport potentially. Next slide, please. This is a slide courtesy of the airport's Concessions 101 presentation that they hosted earlier this year. There's a YouTube page. If everybody wants to download Concessions 101 from O'Hare, you can probably see the link, but it talks about the food and beverage categories. In the upper left quadrant, you'll see branded, non-branded, unique branded locations, airport, local, national brands. So from the Chili's restaurant all the way to what you'll see like the Publican, for example. You've got a hyper local brand and a hyper national brand. It spans sit down, full service, grab and go, a snack, just a number of different opportunities in the food and beverage space. Obviously, there's specialty retail, which can go from, the iPad charger vending opportunity to the full-on InMotion, which carries everything from, the tablets to batteries and cases. There's apparel, books, different makeup, just a number of retail opportunities. News and gift, we've all seen the news and gift. Duty free. There's advertising, which a lot of us just kind of walk by and don't notice, but those are contracts, and those typically require an ACDBE participant or a local participant, and that's a business. And then you've got services from the spa through the luggage cart, shoe shine, etc. Next slide. Here is a second slide taken from that presentation. Talks about the 2022 sales, the 2023 deck isn't updated, but again, if you look at the opportunity of business that goes through an airport, it's sizable. It's $500 million, approaching that, I think, with 2023. So food and beverage is the largest component there, which commands most of that, with $315 million in sales. When you look at 2023, I think we're closer to 350 and on our way up. So a lot of hungry people in the airport, a lot of traffic in the airport, captive audience. So really a way to get your to consider the airport as a way to expand your brand. Next slide, please. This condenses a lot of that. On average, sales for a 950 square foot location were $2.4 million. So there's really no bad locations in the airport. They all do relatively well. For the right concept, for the right operator, it is an opportunity that should be considered. And here's some subcategories. Again, these are data provided from the Concessions 101 webinar that was hosted a few months back by the Department of Aviation. We extracted that information, but coffee is a small 539 square foot location. Saw average sales of 1.5 million to 2023 or higher, because the post-COVID recovery is still taking hold. Quick service restaurants are smaller footprint restaurants on the 723 square foot side, but you're seeing sales approach $3 million. Those are impressive numbers. Casual dining, a bit larger, because they accommodate seating and a full bar. on average, but you're seeing sales approaching $6 million. And then your grab and go, which is what you see here represented by the Farm Heirs Market, which is one of the concepts Chicago Hospitality has developed and operates, but mostly grab and go, coffee, that type of thing, chips, snacks. You're seeing sales north of $1 million. So that boils down those previous slides to something that should be considered. It's impressive. Next slide, please. There are a few different methods to operate in an airport typically. This covers a few of those, but there are franchise models, which, for example, like a McDonald's or a Subway, typically operate under some kind of a franchise model where an individual owner operator qualifies with the brand, gets the rights to open the brand, demonstrates the financial capability, writes up a proposal, and then pitches the brand at the airport. The licensee licensor model operates a lot like that, but instead a brand, a restaurant, for example, seeking to enter into the airport will partner with a local operator. Partnership like ours, perhaps Chicago Hospitality Partner, where we as a master prime would license a brand from a local operator. We develop it, we build it, we operate under their operation guidelines, their suppliers, etc., in exchange for a royalty. And then there is a direct joint venture sub-license operation model. Not to get into the minutia there, but oftentimes an airport will put out a location request. Perhaps they're looking for Asian cuisine. And those that are interested will prepare a pitch, some financial representations, qualifications, a menu, a design, and say, look, we'd like a bite this apple. Here's our best pitch. That's a direct type of lease. There's also versions of that within a sublease and a joint venture, where a larger prime operator or Chicago Hospitality Partners, for example, will partner with a local operator, a small business, to help bring them into the airport, which is a new opportunity. So we typically do that as well. The costs and the APC/DBE experience requirements typically favor a licensing or a JV model, because you have to have that airport experience to get the airport comfortable with selecting you. But there's other ways that we can collaborate and chat about that down the road. But there's a number of ways to skin the cat. One of the higher in the licensee model, the licensee or prime typically covers most of the initial and ongoing costs. So that particular model seems very favorable to owner operators in the city. They come in with their brand, they partner with us, for example. We help to translate and develop that brand in the airport in exchange for a fee. The owner operator of the brand would come in and kind of keep an eye on how the execution of the brand is going on, keeps an eye on the supplier, and make sure that their quality of their brand is being exercised. Much like a franchisee does with their brand. McDonald's would come in and make sure the owner operator, the fries are the right temperature, the mix of the soda is right, the uniforms are right. So next slide, please. Some of the financial considerations to open in an airport are high. This is not on the supplier side. This is more on the food and beverage operator slide that we touched on earlier. But you've got construction, design, furniture, fixture, and equipment. Those costs are sometimes 3 times what you see on the street. You have organized labor, union. You are restricted to working at night many times, which is time and a half. So you could see how those costs really do go up. There's delivery, different things of that nature. And then you propose a rent to the city, which is based on a percentage of sales. So if you sell $1 million in revenue, or you're looking to propose anywhere from 14% to maybe 19%. So that could be $190,000 in rent. In exchange for that captive audience, you do pay a premium. So you're not marketing as much. You have safety and security of the airport, but it is a lot more expensive. So it's something to consider. But again, for the right model, for a category that's in demand, if you're experienced in staffing and operating, it's something to consider. Again, with the licensee prime model, someone like a Chicago Hospitality Partners or another prime would cover that and pay a royalty. So staffing, and again, I mentioned in the operational costs, there are, badging, increased training. Takes a while to get to the airport, so oftentimes you have to incentivize your employees by providing CTA transit cards or a parking allowance. There are additional shipping costs and 1 or 2% add on your typical street level cost to get the product into the airport. So it's a little bit different, but again, down the road here, should you guys have any questions, we can collaborate and chat as a resource from a Q&A standpoint, where we're always part of the the overall airport and restaurant landscape. So even as an ally or friend or resource, we're happy to provide some guidance on that to anybody on the call. New location build out costs are high. We're seeing averages of anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500, depending on how elaborate, per square foot. Now that's in line. That's an inline location. That's full plumbing. That's brand new build out from the ground up, like you'll see in the picture below in one of the triangles. It's drywall. That's drilling holes in the ceiling to put in a vent. That's furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So that represents the kind of on the higher side of the equation. But there are smaller footprint locations that are perhaps even repurposing of existing locations that could bring that cost down. But just rule of thumb for you guys to consider. Next slide, please. Here's some paths and some takeaways on how best to introduce your business to the airport. What kind of business are you? Vendor opportunities exist for product suppliers, paper suppliers, cleaning supplies, all kinds of materials that need to be brought in and out of the airport. Local and Chicago-based business are highly coveted, locally owned, very important. Something that brings Chicago character and appeal. And again, if you're bringing and developing a design for a food and beverage location, it should be very high quality and reflective of Chicago, so that Chicago DNA is really important and really sits well with the evaluators. Another important thing, I've mentioned it before, is ACDBE, which is the Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. This is typically a business that's 51% or more owned by a socially or economically disadvantaged individual. Some of those categories are on the bottom of the slide, but they have recently changed the net worth requirements. A few days ago, they actually announced that they added, it significantly increased. So now folks with the net worth less than $2 million, and that's excluding your primary residence and retirement assets, can qualify. A lot of times you have restaurant groups that have, exceed the net worth through their home ownership or money in the business. There's ways that that has increased, has opened up the ACDBE program to more individuals and can work for you. And then the elements of a strong proposal to the airport. If your category cuisine in demand, you'll run a sustainable operation. And sustainability could mean environmentally friendly as well. Your experience and qualifications on the street, can those translate to the airport? And can that deliver a first-class experience to the travelers? And then obviously the economics, your expected annual sales, and the percentage rent offering. There's some of the components that the airports are evaluating when they're looking at you. Next slide, please. Some of the resources here on the in red are something you should consider taking note of. There is something called the CDA Web Alerts, which is the Chicago Department of Aviation. They have a sign up for your email. So when anything opportunity-wise, whether it's on the food and beverage side, vendor, construction, different projects, they send you a notice, which is very important. So I encourage you guys to do that. Again, searching the CDA YouTube pages, especially for that Concessions 101. That is a good resource. There's a YouTube video there. It's about an hour long. Membership in the Illinois Restaurant Association is very important. They act as a great resource, bringing together financing resources, opportunities at the airport, partnerships, and just great guidance. So I can't say enough about the Illinois Restaurant Association. and how vital they are to the restaurant industry at large and the airport, upcoming airport opportunities. AMAC, which is Airport Minority Advisory Council, another great resource for folks looking to penetrate the airport business. Encourage you guys to search for those guys. Explore financing through the SBA and Advantage Illinois programs. Again, the Illinois Restaurant Association has provided a number of webinars in the past and can connect you to those resources. Those of you that are looking to connect with us offline, perhaps discuss partnerships and different opportunities, any questions, general questions about the airport and how to get in and working with us perhaps, RFP updates, please email partners at chpord.com or visit our website at chpord.com. There's a couple of forms and resources there that you can reach out to us and stay on our mailing list, because we're anticipating a large RFP in the coming months that can open up a lot of possibilities for those of you on the call. As a prime, we're looking to partner with many of you, so we can look forward to hearing from some of you later on. Next slide. This touches on, I think, a quick, okay, this is our quick 2022 year in review for our phase one. And I will let it speak for itself.
At O'Hare.
At O'Hare,
One of the busiest
Here at
airports
O'Hare
in the
Airport,
country.
Terminal 5. Terminal 5. Terminal
the
5.
Chicago Department of
Massive
Aviation phase
multi-international
renovation
terminal
plan.
of Terminal 5's $1.3 billion expansion.
More flights through O'Hare last year than in pre-pandemic 2019. Experts say it's an expansion the city really needed.
In 2022, Chicago Hospitality Partners secured the largest F&B concessions contract at O'Hare Airport in over a decade. We believe Chicago stands at the peak of innovation and culinary excellence.
In the summer of 2023, we broke ground on Phase 1, which included Chicago's favorite, Bar Siena and Hampton Social. Whether you're sitting down at Bar Siena to try their innovative and delicious approach to modern Italian food, or enjoying a refreshing cocktail and coastal-inspired meal at Chicago staple Hampton Social, Chicago Hospitality partnered with the best restaurants in the city to offer each O'Hare traveler an opportunity to taste Chicago without ever leaving Terminal 5.
This is celebrity chefs. This is Michelin star restaurants. How did the idea for this come up?
We partner with local brands, restaurant brands, and give some of those travelers a true taste of Chicago. It also creates an opportunity for small businesses, minority-owned businesses, chefs, suppliers, vendors, to bring in their products to the airport. So it's a win-win.
At Chicago Hospitality Partners, we provide established restaurateurs with the opportunity to share their menus with millions of travelers.
Today's restaurateurs are seeking new ways to monetize their brand's success, but breaking into an airport concession program can be challenging. Our team has adopted hundreds of local and chef-driven concepts into dozens of top airports nationwide. Whether you are a single multi-unit operation or aspiring food brand, Chicago Hospitality Partners can help you soar.
Great. So next we'll hear from Donna Beasley, who's going to talk about how to obtain the ACDBE certification. Donna, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. I just wanted to talk a little bit about certification for the DBE and the ACDBE. One thing that people generally focus on is the 51% ownership of disadvantaged individuals, which is a requirement. But what they don't often realize is the importance of control and independence. So to be certified as a woman-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned firm or ACDBE, you do have to have 51% ownership. But control means that you have the top position. In other words, you can't be the president, for example, and your husband be the CEO. You really need to have control of the business. You also can't, for example, say you have an advisory board of some kind, and if you're going to spend over $5,000, you need to get permission from the board. That again says you do not have control. So these are things that when you're applying for certification, you really need to look at the actual requirements of each certification. And in this case, we're talking about the ACDBE, but you need the qualifications for the DBE and those that there's a part on the application where you specifically specify that you're going for the ACDBE. So, which is required if you're going to be a concessionaire at the airport. Independence means that you say, for example, you have 3 primary clients, but one of those clients represents 85% of your revenue. Then from a certification standpoint, you're not really viewed as independent, because if you lose that client, then you're basically out of business. So they look for a balance of clients, when they're looking to certify a firm. And the economic disadvantage has kind of come under scrutiny the last year or so from in several different places. It's been challenged. So one of the things that you want to do is make sure that you look at the updated guidelines. John mentioned those earlier, that the guidelines for certification for the ACDBE and the DBE have been improved. Next slide, please. So the important thing of knowing is where to apply for certification. So City of Chicago, CTA, Metro, PACE, and Illinois Department of Transportation is all places that you can apply. I recommend that you consider going with CTA or PACE. The City of Chicago takes longer because they have so many. And Metro is kind of a mail-in, so I recommend CTA and PACE. They do a really good job of getting those applications through. Next slide. So, there's a lot of changes. I don't want to go through everything that the ACDBE has changed recently, but I did want to highlight just a couple of things that, and you can get these certifications from the Department of Transportation's website. And you can even Google ACDB recent changes and get them, because it's more than what I have here. But these I thought were significant because one, they talk about how they're now aligning the program objectives with the DBE objectives. So you do have to first qualify as a DBE, and then you make that notation, as I mentioned, that you want to apply for the ACDBE. They've streamlined goal setting and reporting, and they are clarifying the use of goods and services for concessions to meet their specific goals. So they have goals, and they have set up these new rules to help them meet these goals. But one thing that I thought was important at this group is they reduced the barriers to capital access. So it's important, if you're looking for financial help, that you look at what they mean by the CD financial institutions and see if that would be something that you would need to take advantage of. And they're going to be expanding the state directory of certified firms, which you would be included to once you are certified. And of course, all entrepreneurs want to hear that the strengthened provisions for prompt payment have been improved. So that's very important as well. So that's really, next slide. So if you have, any questions regarding certification, the other thing I want to reiterate is about capacity. That when you are going to do a project as a prime contractor or subcontractor, or, one of the partnerships or lease agreements that John talked about earlier, one of the things you really need to look at is what is your capacity. you need a capacity of funds, obviously, if you're going to do anything in terms of building construction, but you also need a capacity of staff. And staffing at the airport can really be a little challenging, things that you might not consider, like having to provide your employees bus cards and parking passes and things like that, that you might not have thought about putting in when you start thinking about doing business at the airport. The other thing is, relationships. If you want to do business at the airport and you don't have necessarily the capacity, then maybe you can team up with someone who does, and the two of you can pursue an opportunity at the airport, or in any case of where you can do business as a DBE. So just keep that in mind, that capacity is important anytime you're doing any kind of government contracting. And with that, that's really all I have to say about certification, and we can open it up to questions.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, John. Such really useful information. Just a reminder, if you do have questions, you can type them in the Q&A and we will answer those now. I know Christine D'Souza had some questions to ask, so we'll turn to her.
Thanks, Teresa. Thank you, Donna, and thank you, John. I get these questions asked from our restaurants all the time, two big ones in particular. First one, can you just talk about any opportunities that there are at the airport if someone does have a concept, or are there opportunities that people can currently, work towards getting their brand into the airport?
Oh, great. It's a great question. So currently the airport operates under leases, and most of those leases in terminals 1 and 3 are being evaluated now for an upcoming RFP that I mentioned. The particular brands or concept categories or vendor opportunities are going to be announced in the upcoming, it's expected in the upcoming months. So they, when I mentioned earlier, the CEA web alerts, that will give those interested and look into what those are. So the city will put out a request. They'll say, we'd like this, we're looking for that. And that's across construction, food and beverage, all that. Right now, there are, I think, some construction related RFPs, but the food and beverage stuff is coming online. So we're always looking to aggregate and provide information on that as those become available. Right now, there isn't anything that I can point to, but it's coming soon.
I also might want to add that when it comes to City of Chicago, it pays to look at the city's buying plan, because they just updated that buying plan in April. And it gives you an opportunity to look at what the city is looking to buy in 2024 and beyond. And that is one of the benefits of government contracting, is they tell you in advance what they want to buy. So even though that particular RFP John mentioned may not be open yet, there are some other opportunities, particularly in construction, that are going on at the airport that you can find on the buying plan.
And Donna, when you say those with the minority and the certifications have the first stab at some of these contracts?
I wouldn't say first stab. You have to, because sometimes the client is not the city. Sometimes the client is the prime contractor, such as in John's case, right? So it's competitive. And so it is that again, you have to have the capacity to do the work, and you have to set yourself apart from the competition, so that when you go to pitch someone like John or a prime contractor, or you're looking to be a subcontractor, say in the construction area at the airport, it is a competitive thing. And as far as giving you the advantage, probably not, because everybody that is going has to be certified if they're going under the set-aside program. Remember, you do not have to be a certified firm to do business with the city. The reason to be certified is to participate in the set-aside program for women-owned, minority-owned, and in this case, ACDBE certification.
Thanks, Donna. So I see a lot of questions about vending machines in the chat and how to get a machine placed at the airport. John, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So about 2 years ago, the airport put out a RFP for vending specifically, and they awarded 11 separate contracts. 3 of those, I will tell you, only 3 of those were fronted by or participated by Chicago-based brands. Ourselves, my company, Air Brands, participated in the Pepsi contract. So the vending that we were able to partner with them them being Pepsi as an ACDBE, we actually participated not as a food and beverage supplier, but as a vendor. So we provided services, on-site services that covered, a lot of the maintenance, the quality control, the pricing surveys, as a vendor with a prime, which is Pepsi. The first step was to become obviously certified as an ACDBE, because that made us attractive to Pepsi to participate with them as a local. So that put us, you could say, created a tremendous advantage. So again, local, having the competency, which when I say competency, there are codes called NAICS codes, NAICS codes. Take a look at that. See if you have qualifications in that area. And when you apply for your MBE or your ACDBE, you articulate that in your application. Hey, I've got a resume. I can do this. And that is a great step in that direction. To answer the question, there is not a current vending opportunity, but they are always looking for new and innovative products that can be offered in an automated retail environment, AKA vending. So not right now, but prepare for that.
Great, thanks, John. And then is the ACDBE certification needed for retail products like gifts and souvenirs, Donna?
Well, if it's a concession, you do have an advantage if you're doing and going in as an ACDBE. Remember, I said it is not a requirement, but it sets you apart and helps you get the, particularly with you have to remember that the city and the airport are making a concerted effort to do business with ACDBEs and DBEs. So I think, if you look at the upcoming year and what the airport is doing, it is going to be an opportunity and an advantage to participate in this. But again, it's actually not a requirement, but it is, I would say, even though it's technically not a requirement, you really want to have it.
Thanks, Donna.
If you're a concession, but even if you're not a concession, you want the DBE because it's needed in transportation. That's just the one they accept.
Got it. Christine, I know you had some more questions.
Yeah, this one is another one for John. John, I know you mentioned that there is a upcoming RFP. If someone has been in discussions with another concessionaire, what do you recommend? Can they still talk to other people, other concession companies? Are they typically exclusive contracts? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the opportunities at O'Hare, I've been going on many of them on a month-to-month basis with a prime concession, right? So there's an anticipation that there's going to be a large swath of opportunity coming to the airport. Obviously, it's very competitive. So over the past year or two, a lot of teams have come into Chicago, and existing operators and aspirational operators, primes, have been reaching out to brands and have signed with brands to put them into a competitive proposal. Because it's anticipated that there will be a lot of packages, there's many terminals, many opportunities, over 140 potentially, that many of those brands now are looking to expand their bite at the apple potentially and signing with more than one team. So our team has been entering into conversations with folks that were previously signed up but have since expired, and there's been a lot of action. So yes, I would encourage many of you who are looking to participate to explore a potential exclusive +1 opportunity. We're open to those discussions on a one-on-one basis for the right brands, and for those of you that would look to broaden your possibilities with more than one package, more than one team.
Thanks, John. So Loda Lawless, the Dearborn will be opening in O'Hare Terminal 5 next year. And she's just raving about you, John, and Chicago Hospitality Partners. Thanks, Loda, for your comment. And then she said, this might be putting the horse before the cart, considering the Dearborn is not open yet, but how do we get opportunities to open in other terminals and even beyond O'Hare?
Well, good question. Well, the Dearborn is, again, very coveted for a few reasons. It's a 100% Chicago brand, right? Owned and operated by a minority group, females in business. That particular checkbox is something that you need to be to DBE or qualify as ACDBE, because female ownership is considered a disadvantaged group. So there are other opportunities. Every terminal kind of has its own main core airlines and customer demographic, right? So a Dearborn, for example, although it's going into Terminal 5, could be very attractive to a Terminal 1 and a Terminal 3. So those are our conversations we definitely love to enter into and chat with you more on. But I mean, killer brand, everybody loves it, and that's what the airport's looking for: diverse ownership and high quality product offerings, great design, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely.
Can you guys answer, John, maybe this is for you. Do you have to be located within the city of Chicago? And this isn't just with the airport, but I guess with any contracts that the city is doing, does your business have to be in the city?
You don't have to be in the city. For the food and bev side, you know, they like to have a taste of Chicago, but many of the either large construction firms, subcontractors, if you're good at something in one market, you can potentially be good at it in Chicago. Obviously, having the experience and qualifications and the capacity that Donna mentioned, what can you deliver? So I think one of the things that are interesting is people put together this resume. Hey, what can I do? Can I be a vendor? Can I be a provider? Can I be a food and beverage brand? Put together a one-page statement of qualifications, maybe a couple of images, you know, and that right there could form the basis of your pitch when primes come looking. And that could be, I'm a subcontractor, I'm a drywall contractor, I'm a paper and supply contractor, I'm certified, I'm in Chicago, or I'm not in Chicago, but I can deliver to Chicago. So all that is very important that you kind of amass that and start preparing for these upcoming opportunities as they become available, because the city's buying plan outside of the airport and within the airport provides, hey, we're looking for this. Are you a computer provider? Are you an IT specialist? Really a broad net of services that are coming due.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just hook onto that and say that if you need help with your capability statement that John was just talking about, I'm actually doing a webinar on tips on how to write and improve a capability statement the third week in May. So if you need help with that, because that is a major tool in government contracting, having a really good capability statement. And also, you do not have to be a citizen of Chicago to do business in Chicago, or to do a business. You can also do business outside the state. So not only can other companies come into our state and do business, I just want to say that the reverse is true also, that you can also do business outside of the state. And the DBE is a certification that is by the transportation industry and can cross the state line.
And Donica, just to piggyback on that one, so the state of Illinois is something we often overlook, but the state of Illinois operates, you know, the university program, University of Illinois. Those have food and beverage opportunities. Those have vending. Those have supplier requirements, janitorial, everything. So again, these certifications will help you stand out, because when a prime or when a city or when a state comes calling and says, we'd like to offer a contract, we have a goal of 30%, 20%, 15% to be minority-owned businesses, that certification puts you in the running for that. So I'll leave it there.
And just as a reminder, everyone that registered for this webinar will receive the presentation and the recording and John and Donna's contact information if you want to follow up and receive more information from them. I have another question in the chat from James Pearson. I frequently travel out of O'Hare and notice there are not many plant-based options. Is there any interest in partnering with plant-based concepts in the restaurant space, either full service or fast casual?
So yeah, so all of the you know, the big plant-based craze kind of came in a few years ago and became very, very common. Also, gluten-free is a huge, often overlooked a category that's highly coveted. So if you have a product that's plant-based and it's ready to go, it's ready for prime time, there are these symposiums and vendor sign-up days that are hosted by the Department of Aviation, for example. Again, the capability statement is important because then you can create almost a one-page. You say, look, this is our product lineup. We'd love to be a vendor. We may not be able to support our own store, and we don't really want to be in that business, but we want to supply to 140 locations, potentially even partners like US Foods that are a partner with the Illinois Restaurant Association. They're interested in hearing about what you have. So that's important that you again tailor your pitch, get something going, and insert your brand into these conversations so that when the vendor when the packages are presented, they can say, look, we have this incredible locally sourced product, and I use local because it's such a hot topic. That is a plant-based product. It's highly coveted. It's great reviewed, and we can offer this. In addition, that individual company that's providing this is also a DBE or an ACDBE. So that just raises your profile and your attractiveness just that much.
Thanks, John. I have another question. How can what's the best way a food or beverage vendor should approach Chicago Hospitality Partners for placement in a current concept? And then how often do menus change? Do you have your own RFP process? How does that work?
Well, the first part of that question is we are happy. The partners at CHPORD is our general inbox mailbox. We will chat with you, get you on the list, provide you additional resources so you can work with us, and even beyond us, just the entire airport landscape. Will keep you more of an authority or a mentor protege. Will expose you to any of these opportunities, and we can continue the dialogue. There's a lot to unpack today. There's a lot of resources that I would encourage us to kind of, as a team and as individuals, to kind of follow and educate yourself so you become your own subject matter experts, right? You get the certification, and then you're prepared for when these opportunity comes, right? So that is the first step, and just being aware of what's coming and being ready to jump into the opportunity.
Okay, great. And then Donna, so you all provide guidance on ACDBE certification at the WVDC?
We provide guidance on all certifications.
And do you have in-person? I know someone is asking here about getting information in person. Is that possible?
Yes, so you can schedule an appointment with me. You can do it by phone, by Zoom, or in person. There's a just drop-down menu. Or you could just call our office and schedule an appointment and request an in-person session. So, but we do in person.
Okay, great. I think that's all for the questions. John and Donna, any closing comments?
I can just say that we could put together a small digest, and again, I know the PowerPoint deck is being propagated to everybody, but there'll be one-off questions. There's, like I said, there's a lot to unpack, but there are some places to start. I think there's an ACDBE checklist that's in PDF form that was mentioned and called out on my slide. It's one of the short URLs, but that's a long checklist. I would say start reviewing that, getting your materials together. That's the first step, I think, is getting your materials together to qualify, your resumes, your articles of incorporation, all that good stuff, and then look to see if you qualify. Many, the vast majority of folks that are from one of those disadvantaged groups or can prove economic disadvantage can qualify for either an MBE or a DBE or an ACDBE. So Donna's group can be a resource there. Again, we're always available for Q&A to help digest some of your questions and cut to that, and we're happy to help as well.
And I just want to say, here at the Women's Business Development Center, we have a wealth of opportunities and events that can help you. For example, if you're putting together your package and you want somebody to go over it, again, I mentioned about the capability statements that we do, but we have a variety of service that can be helpful. We have access to capital. We are actually one of the few nonprofits that actually loan money. So there's just a wealth of resources that you can take advantage of, and almost all of our services are at no cost. So.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. John Wilbur, Donna Beasley, thanks for your time this morning. I know it was a lot to unpack. So we will send this the presentation and all of the resources out to you after this webinar. Thank you all for attending and have a great day.
You, bye.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck.
Bye-bye.